All right, so I want to show you a couple of artistic representations of Circe. So I told you earlier this year about Romar Bearden, who was a famous African-American artist, well known for being a part of the Harlem Renaissance, and that he created a series of collages based on the Odyssey. And in these collages, he reimagined Odysseus and all the main characters as Black. And so he was trying to draw a connection between the African diaspora, between African Americans. He was just trying to make a connection between Odysseus' struggles and the struggles of African Americans. So this is called the domain of Circe, meaning this is Circe's land. And you can see there is this depiction of a lion. This is actually sort of a very classical depiction of a lion. It looks kind of like a griffin, if you've ever heard of that. If you're into Harry Potter, those griffins are they're like the very British. We associate them with British things, lions, but that's what this looks like. And then we see Circe here. She looks monstrous and hideous. But in other collages, so these are two other collages that feature Circe. This one is called Circe Turns a Companion of Odysseus into Swine. We see her in a much more beguiling form, a much more enchanting form. But once again, she's got this griffin-like lion at her feet. She's got a snake wrapped around her arm, and this is a man she has turned into a pig. And then over in this collage, which is just called Circe, we see a more clear connection being made between Circe and sort of a witch or a natural healer, perhaps a voodoo practitioner. We see, once again, the lion that looks like a griffin in more detail. So this is a very sort of, these depictions of Circe spark my imagination a little bit. They're much more, in my mind, much more interesting than this one. They just seem to encapsulate the magic and the mystery a little bit more. This idea that she has this certain face, but then sometimes she can look like this. So she can change forms and be an enchantress, like it said in the text. All right, I have some poems in the virtual text that are there for you if you would like to read. They are wonderful. These are all about Circe. All right, and then we have a visit to the dead. So Circe, when they finally left, she let them leave after a year. She's like, okay, well, you're going to have to go find Tiresias. And Tiresias is a blind poet, well, a blind prophet. I'm sorry, he's a blind prophet, but he's dead. So he's in the land of the dead in Hades. So they have to go underground to see him to get this prophecy. So Hermes gave Odysseus the magic herb. Odysseus convinces Circe to turn everyone back into men. And then she says that he will never reach home until he visits the kingdom of the dead. And so she tells him what to do. She says, to get to the kingdom of the dead, you have to chase the north wind to the edge of the ocean. Then you have to land on the shores of death. Then you have to find the dread river Styx that surrounds Death's kingdom. In Greek mythology, the river Styx was a river that once you crossed it, it erased all memories of your past life. So that you would do that before you went to the land of the dead, although that doesn't always seem to work because a lot of people in the land of the dead still remember things. Dig a deep well, pour in milk, wine, barley, honey, clear water. Sacrifice a beautiful black ewe and a young fine ram. Let their blood run to the pit. Okay. Ghosts will gather and drink this blood. Then they'll get their strength back and become alive again. And then you have to talk to them. Okay. So he follows these orders. And then Tiresias appears. Next, Odysseus sees the spirit of Tiresias, a famous Greek seer. So he's like a wise man, a psychic, that type of thing. Tiresias lived for 7 generations in both male and female bodies. So yeah, that's part of the legend of Tiresias, that he could shapeshift from gender to gender, much like my superhero, Jen the Flo. Anyway, so he drinks the blood and then he speaks. My dog is barking, and I apologize. He says, Odysseus, Poseidon is still angry with you. Suffering lies ahead, but do not despair. You will reach home, but you cannot touch the sun god's cattle. Don't touch the sun god's cattle. And then he says, there's more bad stuff for you waiting at home, but be brave, go on another journey, make another sacrifice. And then Tiresias vanishes, and Odysseus sees his mother. He didn't know his mother was dead. That's pretty upsetting. He sees his mother, tries to hug her, she vanishes. Then he sees King Agamemnon. Oh my gosh, you're dead. And then he's like just so freaked out. He goes back to the ship, and he has to sail back to Circe to figure out how to get home. And that's Pickle who won't stop barking, and I'm sorry about